Good morning, this is Shereen Hunter, and I am the promoter representing Unleashed Combat Sport. And I wanted to address something on a public platform with regards to an article that was published today in the Sowetan newspaper, which makes a reasonable amount of reference to me as a promoter and my discontent with some of the things that are unfolding during Women's Month under the ambit of Boxing South Africa. So the article speaks about me being unhappy as a promoter about not being invited to a launch that is happening for Women's Month in the province of Natal. Am I unhappy? Absolutely, I am extremely unhappy. Was I unhappy about the launch, which was a media launch that happened on Monday? Not really about the media launch, but rather the exclusion of 8 provinces from an entire week of boxing activities coined Women in Boxing Week. So I just wanted to clarify that. There was one particular event that I was unhappy about being excluded from, not just in my personal capacity, but all the women in my province excluded. And other provinces, actually, it was confirmed with me by BSA that only women in the province where the actual national workshop was being hosted, which is in Natal, is the woman that would be catered for to attend that event. I was quite shocked at that. In fact, I had to ask the question again to say, is this a Women in Boxing Natal workshop? Or is this a national workshop? Because surely, if it is a national workshop, then all women in boxing across all provinces would be invited. I was then met with the information that indeed the women from other provinces were not invited. However, if they wanted to participate, they could watch on Zoom. I then asked the question, which I think was a fair question, why were the women from the 8 other provinces not invited to the workshop, which is happening this week, Thursday, and branded as a national workshop? And I was told that the reason women from the 8 other provinces were excluded was because women in boxing cannot afford to travel. And I must be honest, I found that to be a very unacceptable answer to the question of exclusion, especially because the whole intention is for women in boxing to be included, not only in boxing events, but definitely in a Women in Boxing week of events. That offense was amplified by the fact that through my office for the weeks preceding this week, I had reached out on numerous occasions to the BSA office, also my staff to the BSA office to say, what is happening? Can you send a program? Can you send travel arrangements? And each time was met with the answer that, sorry, they cannot tell us what is happening in the week before. They are unsure. There is nothing happening the week before the breakfast with the Deputy Minister on Saturday. There's no reason for licensees to be there. And I asked this question specifically because my invitation that I received on the 5th of August to a Women in Boxing week gave the dates for the week. So I had booked off a full week in my diary from my business. I had turned my clients away. I had cancelled appointments. I had moved meetings because the invitation that I received said it's a week. But then following that invitation, there was absolutely no information forthcoming for the next 10 days. And from the 16th of August up until the end of last week, there was a series of my office reaching out saying, what is happening? What is happening? What is happening? How are we getting there? Where are we staying? What is happening during the week? We need to prepare. As women traveling across provinces, we need to prepare. We have children at home. Some people have husbands at home. I have a business I need to attend to. Some women need to take time off work. We need to know what is going on. And absolutely no information was forthcoming. Each time the answer that I got and my staff got was, sorry, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. BSA invited you, but actually it's the Department of Sport and they're not communicating with us and we don't know what they've planned. And they landed the ball squarely at the feet of the Department of Sport. I eventually got so desperate that what I did is I said to BSA representative in their office, I will book my own flights. I can't wait any longer. It's just a few days before we have to be there. I will book my own car. I will sort out my own accommodation. Thank you for the invitation. I will be there for the breakfast with the minister. And that's the end of it. And actually, that would have been the end of it. I was quite happy to just swallow, even though they'd invited me, even though they'd committed to travel arrangements, and I just couldn't get an answer out of them. I then took the responsibility of transporting myself to and from the province, where I thought it was just the breakfast with the minister that was happening. On Monday this week, on the same day that the events started, the program was published on social media. And I was horrified to see that exactly what I'd been asking about was indeed the case. There is a series of events happening throughout the week for Women's Week. And actually, if you really want to participate in Women's Week under the auspice of Boxing South Africa, you should be there on the Monday, the same day that they published the program, for the first time to the public. I can't even say to women in boxing, because I don't know how many women in boxing actually saw that program on social media, but I certainly did. And when I read the program, I was horrified to find out that on the Thursday, this week Thursday, the day after tomorrow, there is a full day workshop for women in boxing. I was shocked to read this because I had asked and asked and asked and asked, is there anything that we need to participate in? I'm not worried about the press conference. I'm not worried about visits, but the workshop, surely, where we are discussing the most fundamental issues that are facing and the biggest challenges facing women in boxing. How do you not invite women in boxing to that workshop? I chose then to give Boxing South Africa the benefit of the doubt, and I reached out to 2 executive members to say, is this possible? Am I reading this correctly? Is this a workshop for licensees? Or is this a workshop for high-level government officials? And maybe I'm jumping the gun. Let me not get upset. Let me give you the benefit of the doubt. And actually, my disappointment was compounded when it was confirmed to me that this workshop on Thursday this week, which no women in boxing know about in at least 8 of the provinces, is for licensees. I just was like dumbfounded. I said, how can you do that? How can you have a workshop, not tell women in boxing there's a workshop? And I was then told, well, we know women in boxing can't travel and you can actually still be involved by watching this workshop on Zoom. A workshop that starts at 9 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Zoom, supposedly to satisfy women who don't have money to travel. So you can't get there, you can't look after yourself while you're traveling, but you've got a laptop, you've got a cell phone, and you've got at least 8 or 9 hours of data to view what is actually going on and what is being discussed at the grassroots level in Natal. And I was heartbroken and devastated. The first ever Women in Boxing conference in Natal, and 8 out of 9 provinces are not invited. I subsequently reached out to women in all the provinces, including Zandile Malinga in Natal, including, and actually have come to realize nobody understood anything about the workshop. Zandile was not aware that the other provinces were not invited, and none of the other women that I spoke to in any of the other provinces had a cooking clue about attending this conference, whether it is online or in person. So that is actually what I was upset about. I had spent my personal money making the effort to get down to Natal for what I thought was just the breakfast, only to find out there was a series of events. Had I known that, and had I been made aware of that any time before Monday this week, I would have booked my tickets to get to Natal on the Monday to be part of all of those proceedings. I must also say that the CEO of Boxing South Africa apologized and said to me, well, I can change my flight details and I can come down and he'll make a seat for me. They've got 1 or 2 more seats available, which for me was shocking, because who is at this Women in Boxing event in person if it's not Women in Boxing? But that's a story for another day. I can come down, we'll discuss it when we're down there, and it's a mistake, and his team are still learning and they'll do a better job for the next one. And I find it very hard to accept that. And the points that I was making in approaching him and BSA is not about me. It's very easy to say, Shereen, change your airplane tickets and you come down and we'll make a seat for you. Thanks, but no thanks. What about the other 98% of licensees who are not going to be there? What about those women? So we have this massive disparity that basically says the haves and the have-nots, women in boxing. Presumptuously, the assumption, the narrative is from Boxing South Africa, women in boxing are poor. They cannot make their own plans. They cannot provide their own transport. They cannot get from A to B. This is actually the sad reality. And so the haves, there's a small group of people who may be able to attend, they can come. And if you don't have a laptop, data, Zoom, can't buy airplane ticket, can't do any of those, well, sorry for you, you're not included. And my point is, had we been given sufficient time and notice about what was happening during this week, even the women who could not afford a bus ticket, I know very well how women work together and support and help each other. There are many of us who do have a car, who could have put 3, 4 ladies in the car and driven down to Durban, stayed with friends and family. We could have problem solved for ourselves. As women in boxing, we can decide this is something, a cost that cannot be covered by Boxing South Africa or the Department of Sport when they've invited you to the events. If that cost doesn't land with them, no problem. But at least afford us the opportunity to work together as women in our provinces. Give us a little bit of time. We will rally up the support in our provinces. We will get sponsors in our provinces. We will find ourselves from A to B. You don't have to worry about that. Women are excellent problem solvers and we know how to work together. But you can't tell us on a Monday about a women's week of boxing that starts the same day. Because even if that happened with men, I can tell you a lot of men would not be able to take time off work, take time away from their family, and come up in less than 24 hours with money to travel. So this is not about women being poor and women not having money. It's not even about boxing people that are poor and boxing people that don't have money. This is about the host of an event not communicating the detail of that event, not giving people who they invited sufficient time, sufficient notice to actually get themselves to an event which is instrumental in terms of the future of boxing and women's roles in boxing. So am I annoyed? I am annoyed. Am I annoyed about missing a launch? I couldn't be bothered, quite frankly, about the launch. Am I very upset that there is a conference being held the day after with 98% of the licensees who they will be talking about not present? I'm very upset about that. I think it's very, very unfair. And then to shadow it with gender bias and say, well, we didn't invite people because actually they don't have money. It doesn't sit well with me. That is my opinion. I'm happy to share it. And I'm sharing it on a public platform because the article in the Sowetan today was a public article. And it in some ways it reads a little bit wrong because it says I'm unhappy about the launch. It didn't have nothing to do with the launch. I'm unhappy about the way the whole week was not communicated, not presented properly, but I'm desperately unhappy about a national workshop where one province is present and of no fault of her own. And I've said this to Zandile, I don't blame her at all because she's not hosting. She's also just invited to attend. But I think it's desperately, desperately unfair and very sad in the month of Women's Month, although timing actually would make no difference to me because it would have been sad whether it happened Monday to December, but worse in Women's Month when you should be empowering, equipping and unifying women that it's been totally the have and the have-nots. If you're in Natal, you're invited. If you're not in Natal, you're not invited. If you're not invited, well, hop onto Zoom and, we'll see you there. It's not right. It's not right.